Let's talk about equipment. A lot of you guys have been hearing about the new MacBook M1, and you've probably heard about the Air and the iPad Pro. So today my main goal is to give you a very untraditional review. There's gonna be better reviews online, I'll be very honest about that. And it's empty. The box is empty. My goal is to really focus in on how this thing handles in Final Cut Pro because I am a very heavy duty Final Cut user. I saw this one meme on a filmmaker's Instagram page and it showed a Game of Thrones timeline that looks a little bit like this. And well, I want to show you what my 1 hour free training timeline looked like. So yeah, I'm basically a Game of Thrones editor. So my timelines on Final Cut can get just crazy. If you're looking for a technical breakdown, this is not the video. I'm gonna make a comparison between, I'm gonna grab it, the new M1 MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro. They're both 8 gigabytes of RAM. They're both 13 inches. To start off, I have the top of the line 16-inch MacBook Pro. It has 1 terabyte internal storage. I'll just show you the whole specs, but basically I bought the best one that money could buy. And I thought this would make all of my troubles go away. And to be honest, it hasn't. I have been having lots of crashes going on in Final Cut Pro. I've been having lots of frustrating bugs, things just not going that smoothly. The funny thing is, it wasn't until I started trying to run this test that I actually discovered what the real issue was with this computer. And so today I wanted to give you a piece of information that might actually mean you don't have to upgrade to a new MacBook. Maybe your computer that you already have is plenty fast enough, but you are just in the same trap that I've been in, thinking that your computer is not sufficiently powered to be able to handle your workflow. Some of you may have seen my recent video on whether Cappadocia is worth the hype. Now that is a project full of layers. Tons of different clips stacked on top of each other. We've got color grading, we've got LUTs applied, third-party plugins from adjustment layers to motion blur. It's a pretty heavy project, and it's becoming a bit of the standard on the Lost LeBlanc channel. Super heavy-duty Final Cut needs. And so one of the most frustrating things about that edit was that here on this super spec'd out, top-of-the-line 16-inch MacBook Pro, I spent half of my edit looking at a beach ball. That giant rolling loading system, I had to restart Final Cut maybe 20 times, maybe 30 times. The further into the edit I got, the worse it started performing. And I even had proxy files made, and these proxy files were still having issues. What's the point of creating proxies if they're not even going to load out properly? I feel stupid admitting that I've located what the issue was. It wasn't until I picked up this M1 computer that I discovered that it wasn't the computer that was the problem, it was something else. So my testing included this. I took the Cappadocia hard drive and I plugged it into the M1 computer. I was devastated. The exact same issues were happening. Beach balls, slow load times, Final Cut freezing, and it even seemed a little worse on the M1 MacBook. Surely enough, there was something else. It couldn't have been the computer. I've seen enough reviews online. It shouldn't be coming to a standstill. So I started to remove plugins. Everything that I downloaded from third parties that didn't belong directly to Final Cut. LUTs from Canon, adjustment layers, motion blur, plugins, all sorts of these titles that I had added. It still wasn't loading very quickly. And so the next conclusion was, well, these hard drives aren't that quick, but for the past couple of years, they've been plenty fast enough. I've been able to do multi-layer timelines, I've been able to do very complex edits, and they've held up fine, so why all of a sudden would it be the hard drive that's the issue? And, well, spoiler, it's the hard drive. And even though we're gonna talk about a comparison of the M1 versus the non-M1 computer, it might be the reason why you're also seeing very slow times on your computer too, if you're working off of one of these and not working off one of these. I took the library for Is Cappadocia Worth the Hype and I dragged it onto my desktop. I have enough internal storage here to run it off of the SSDs that are built into the computer, and I brought all of the Cappadocia media onto the SSD. No more did I experience any problems. Never in my life did I think I'd be saying this. We are going to be comparing Apple's base level MacBook Air M1 to my spec'd out 16-inch MacBook Pro, the best laptop they sold in 2019, and technically still the best laptop they sell if you look at the specs. But the difference is all in the chip. This has the M1 chip, that one has the Intel chip, which just is being put to shame. Let's hop in and I'm gonna do a screen recording here and I'm going to show you what sort of playback we get. What is the experience of editing on a computer that 1 year ago was meant for note takers in university? As I mentioned guys, this is my timeline for is Cappadocia worth the hype? As you can see here, we've got different layers from sound effects to music. We've got tons of different clips. Some of the clips are stacked on top of each other, where the base layer is me vlogging, and then on top we've stacked some cinematics to help tell that story. Now, most of these layers are color graded with an adjustment layer on top. As you can see, uncolored and colored, and they also have LUTs. So this is a hefty project. It's robust. So what I want to do to test this is I'm going to go ahead and stress it to the max. That would be pushing this to better quality. First test is the scrub test, and I'm going to go ahead and just move my cursor around, and absolutely no delay. In fact, this is marvelously mind-blowing because not only is it playing it back without any delay, guys, but let's add on top of that, we're running a screen recording right now, which generally is a very taxing thing to do to a computer. And this is the 8GB RAM model. It makes you wonder if you would actually need to upgrade to 16GB. If you have crazier computer needs, then maybe. I personally would upgrade the 16GB because that's just the way I am. I want the best. I don't want to deal with any slowdowns if I have to work on something like my 1-hour webinar, for example. But this is insane. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hit play. Okay, and the playback is very smooth. I'm gonna hit the L key, which gives me 1.5 times playback. And now I'm gonna hit it one more time, times 2 playback. And I'm not dropping any frames at all. I'm gonna try a bit of the snappiness here. I'm just gonna go ahead and rearrange some clips. I'm gonna drag them down here. Okay, undo, Command Z. I'm gonna do the same thing again. Now I'm gonna delete, I'll delete these. Gonna move these around. This is the kind of stuff that was literally bringing my computer to its knees when I was using my external hard drives that look like this, guys. There's a few lessons here. Firstly, the new MacBook M1 computers are revolutionary. This is going to be a computer that absolutely changes the market. The fact that an entry-level Apple computer is now going toe-to-toe and in some regards even beating this super expensive $5,000 or $4,500 laptop, it's crazy. It really is sad because I just bought only a year ago that laptop. I bought an iMac Pro. It kind of makes me sad knowing I dropped like 10 grand on computers that are really not that much better than this. And lastly, I want to show you the one area where this computer is even better than my 16-inch MacBook, and it's a really big deal as somebody that's now shooting with a Canon R5. If you have not watched the dozens of reviews on YouTube already, I'll save you the time. This computer, if you're rendering proxy media, if you're doing transcoding or rendering out your project, it will go faster than the 16-inch MacBook Pro with top-of-the-line specs. Why? It's the M1 chip. This MacBook Pro 16-inch is superior in every single way. It has a dedicated graphics card. It has way more RAM, way more everything. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that engine that powers this. And that engine makes up for all of the deficiencies of all of the things that this lacks. So now to show you what the M1 advantage is over the previous generation of Intel chips, I'm going to go ahead and show you a clip from my recent trip here to Egypt. I shot it on my Canon EOS R5, which shoots all its videos in a codec by the name of H.265. Now this codec is an absolute nightmare on all computers until the M1 chips, and I'll show you just how beautifully this plays back. If I hit the spacebar here, the preview is seamless. This is 4K 120. The same process would bring my 16-inch Intel chip computer to its knees. It would take maybe 10 seconds just to get playback, and then from there I would lose frames. So to give you guys an example, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take this existing timeline and I'll drag this in right here. We've now dragged in a new clip. It's not rendered, it's not even fully imported yet. If I hit spacebar and I hit the L key and the L key and the L key again, there is like no delay. There's no slowdown, there's no drop frames, and that's just never been done before on my other computer. And now I'm gonna go ahead and stress this clip a little bit, and I'll just go ahead, I'll take out a adjustment layer and add a little bit of coloring to it. Let's also keep in mind, we're running a screen recording. It's wild. Okay, we're not gonna go intense with it, but wow. That is just so crazy, guys. Let's full screen it. Spacebar, stop. Stop, start, stop, start. There is just a slight little delay before the start of it, and that is nothing at all. I mean, I've never experienced such a smooth playback. Let's go ahead and turn this into better performance and see if we even have that slight delay there. It might just be part of Final Cut. I don't even think changing the view to better performance really improved the experience much. I think I would just keep it better quality because the computer seems to be able to handle it without any problem. It's just such an amazing day to be a video editor. So on this computer, I didn't have to render it and it still played back perfectly. Here, if I don't render it, it's going to be a nightmare. And we now have a one-way ticket to drop frame sitting and everything becomes slow and terrible. It's just frustrating to work with. You can probably even hear it, guys. My fan is going. It sounds like a jet turbine. There is no fan here in this computer because it has such amazing thermal management. Same thing applies for the 4K 60 and even the 4K 30 doesn't do well. It's the H.265. Older computers just can't manage it. The M1 computers, even the entry-level ones, they cut right through it like butter. Wow. So guys, I want to wrap this up because I want to talk about what I'm going to do, what I'm going to be doing for my team, and whether I think you should buy this computer. First of all, for my team, I think these new Apple computers that have come out are the perfect fit, but I'm actually not going to be buying this one for them. I'm going to be getting the Mac Mini, which is a desktop computer. It's $700. It's actually cheaper than this. It doesn't have a screen. As long as you have your speaker, your mouse, and your external monitor already, then this is going to be the cheapest solution. And it's even said to be about 5 or 10% faster than the MacBook Air in certain situations. For that reason, it is the perfect computer for my team because it's a beast and it's affordable. For Max, he travels a lot with me, and so I want to find a solution that's not super expensive but also allows him to be on a laptop. So I would be in a position where I'm actually a little torn whether I get him like a MacBook Pro 13-inch, which is an extra $300, but would give him slightly better battery life, which is invaluable when we're on the road. Not to mention it would have slightly better speakers, and also the display gets a little bit more brightness, which is super useful when you're working outside. Now, the last reason why I would probably get this computer for Max or somebody like yourself who's maybe a traveler is going to be that fan that's built into here. There's no fan that's built into the MacBook Air, which is said to not really cause much of a difference in thermal throttling. In other words, if the computer gets too hot, it usually would slow your computer down substantially, but that seems to not be the case from people who have done much more thorough exams than I have. But here's the thing. Max and I are traveling to islands. Max and I are working our computers 24/7 every single day, and so I'm not so sure a MacBook Air without a fan would do well with that. Maybe in 6 months from now, you would start to see some slowing down of the computer because it's just been worked too hard. And I do feel that this computer here, the MacBook Pro 13-inch, would just have a little bit more pep to it in the long run if it has the ability to actively cool itself. Now, what am I going to do for myself? Well, I'm going to wait out. I know that as much as it sucks that I can't cleanly play back my own R5 footage, this computer right here is going to be just fine. In fact, I'm feeling a lot better about it than I was just 2 days ago before I really realized the issue was my hard drives, not my computer. So I'm feeling relieved, like this is not just a paperweight that I need to throw off a cliff. I was getting really frustrated. The battery life is not as good. The playback of R5 footage is not as good. In fact, it's awful. But ultimately, this is still a powerhouse of a computer, and I love working off 16 inches. So in conclusion, I am waiting for the 16-inch MacBook M1 to be released. As soon as it is, I'll be the first one to order it, no question about it. To be able to watch my footage back without having to create proxy media will be such a beautiful thing. And maybe from time to time, I will literally be borrowing Max's MacBook 13-inch if I end up getting him that, so that I can watch back my footage cleanly and clearly without having to run proxy. And lastly, guys, what do I recommend for you? Well, I recommend that if you don't have a computer right now, it's never been a better time to get that first powerhouse of a computer that will be able to last you probably many years to come. These right here are devices that will last. Secondly, if you do have a computer and you're looking to upgrade, first of all, try your hard drive, see if it was the same thing holding you back as it was me. Thirdly, if you've done troubleshooting on your computer, you've tested SSDs and it's still not giving you the results you want, it might just be time to upgrade to the Mac M1. And these things right here are the way to go. Do not buy the older generation of Apple computers. It's just simply not going to future-proof yourself for what I believe is coming. With all of the updated cameras that are releasing, the new codecs that are coming out, I just think you'll be much happier getting something like this. Now, not only did I test the MacBook M1, but I also picked up an iPad Pro because I wanted to see if this device would not only be fun to use, but actually make my workflow more efficient. I've done a full review on the iPad Pro inside of Lost Creator Academy, which is where I have over 60 hours of training, over 110 videos, but the best part of it all is 2,000 community members, and together we are the strongest content creator community. We share every single part of this journey together, and if you're interested in joining us, then check out that 1-hour training down below to not only get an hour of free training, but also to see what the Academy and the community is all about. Hope to see you in there. All right, that's where I'll end this video, and guys, don't forget to call your mom.